What's up, Don? Mr. Don Wendt in the house, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
Looks like you are in a conference room where a lot of big decisions get made and a lot of productivity happens.
Yes, this is where all the magic happens.
Magic happens in the electrical world.
Yep, yep. There's many hours spent in here hammering out all the details of efficiencies and stuff like that in the construction world, right? How to work better and faster and how to get jobs.
Awesome. My long time friend, Mr. Don Wendt. I was trying to think when we met officially. Do you have any guesses?
I'm going back to like a long time ago, right?
Yeah,
Like
100 years.
a couple hundred years, a couple kids, a couple whatevers. I'm guessing it was what court street did you live on before you moved
Sherman
out?
Court?
Yeah, Sherman.
You
Right?
remember that house?
Oh yeah.
I barely remember that house.
That was probably the beginning of it all. That's where it all went down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That had to have been circa, I don't know, 90.
90? Yeah, Marcus was born then.
91, 90, 80, 91 maybe?
Yeah, Marcus is 1990, so yeah, that's believable. I need to drive by that house next time I'm home.
Tell me a story about when you guys met when you were 7 or 8 years old.
I can remember back. You didn't even know what house he lived in.
Yes, that's how I base my memory is when you lived, I don't even know the streets anymore, over by Creekside Place.
Yeah,
Maple, and just like going straight there after school, whatever grade we were in.
Yeah.
And like just being
causing mayhem.
7-year-old boys and doing ridiculous stuff.
Because there's no parents, because they were working.
Yeah. I remember, what were those things that were on a string and you would hold two hands and then you'd go like that? And
back when it was actually fun to play with things.
You know,
the challenge was like pick things up off the ground, G.I. Joe guys and whatever. And I know what you're talking about because we had out the second story window going across the street or something.
Yeah, we had it going across the street. And I remember your mom pulled up coming home from work and she was like,
She had some words, right? But if that's the worst she ever found out about, that's not too bad.
Yeah. Just like wandering around in the backyard. There was that stream that went through there and always being 20 dogs running around.
Mostly well behaved.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the best behaved dogs I've ever met.
Well, yeah, then it just continued from there with all the craziness, obviously, going through the sports world, right?
Baseball, yep.
Live with each other, baseball, basketball, all that stuff, and building that, team with everybody, right? And then proceeding to later in life, best man and stuff like that.
Best man, roommates.
Yep. Roommates.
The
only person that I know that turns the heat down when it's already 50.
Yeah, right now.
I might know about that a little bit.
No, and even with me being out here for 7 years, my mom and Cage still hang out with you guys, you, Carissa, and the kids. It's been 20 plus years of friendship.
20, you're missing a couple.
30, yeah, I think I missed the part. We're around 20. But no, when you reach out to me, I certainly am super excited to have you with us this morning. You're certainly, again, someone that I look up to with not only the things that you do with your family and how admirable I see those things. You've got basketball, you've got, dirt bikes, cars, you've got just one of the people that I try to be like when I'm sitting there in front of the mirror trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life.
That's kind of flattering, but it's not all gravy, right? So, tough things. Although it sounds glamorous, it's very, very not easy, I'll say.
Yeah. What's one thing that you have realized recently that isn't quite that easy?
Kids, right? And that's just a giant category, right? But because of what I do, I kind of deal with kids in all facets, right? So my work coworkers, some of them are referred to as kids, right? Because they need a little more help. So that's difficult. My actual kids, I got 4.5, 5 kids. And they're difficult. So I sit there and spend my time asking my old man if I did the same stuff as what they're doing. And he basically shakes his head. Yes.
Yeah.
And I try to use it for ammunition, saying I didn't do it. And he's sitting there saying I did. So the kids just suck that up right away.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can imagine.
I say not as I did kind of thing. Right. And then it gets down to like the basketball world. I coached some of the high school kids, JV1 and Helmut Varsity and JV2, and then all the youth stuff that we're running in our town. It's, a town of 1,300, so very small and close-knit community and stuff like that. So some of the challenges with that as far as like getting involvement and or getting people to kind of play by the rules, I'll say, what's fair and breaking out of the culture of, what it's been like for the last 40 years. So that's that's an overall thing for life in general. The culture at work is changing. The culture at the school is changing to be better. That's the plan,
culture
right?
In our country.
Better than yesterday, right?
Better than yesterday. Yeah, and I hate to speak for you, but I'm going to try to do an overview. 4.5 kids, JV, wife. Tell us about, and I'm curious because Par, you got 2 kids yourself, and you're trying to, you're just getting to the point where Johnny's at an age where you can get involved in those sports or those activities. Don, what's one thing that before you started, before the kids really got to that age, where they were going to basketball, football, baseball, whatever the case is, what's one thing that maybe you had an aha, or maybe you had wasn't expecting that moment, that maybe Par could help Par as he gets to that point where, again, Johnny's 5 or almost 5, right, give or take.
Yeah, January 12th, he'll be 5.
Yeah, so that's that age where school starts officially, and thinking back to that point, Don, was there anything where you might have been like surprised or weren't expecting?
Well, there's multiple things, right? That kind of is that you kind of bring up with that point. It's like anywhere from like the kid personally, right? So you got to remember all the time, and this is very difficult for a lot of parents. They're 5 or 6, right? So once you start getting involved in these things, they don't know anything, right? Yeah. So the expectations cannot be set so high that you're just it's negative all the time, right?
Yeah.
You're in first grade playing basketball. You shouldn't be scoring every layup. I'm just happy you're going the right way. Stuff like that. But there are parents that think that if their kid is drugged to the gym every day and stuff like that, that all of a sudden they're already starting on the state tournament team, stuff like that, And my kids, I would say, are a little more athletically skilled, like in basketball and stuff like that, just because of the fact that they have been in the gym the whole time and stuff like that. But they still have to learn and grow on other things as far as like how to communicate with teammates and stuff like that. It's about the big picture, not about your athletic ability and how you think you're going to do.
Yeah.
That was a big shock because, me, the type of person I am, I don't like sugarcoat what I can do and or what my family can do and their abilities and stuff like that. It is what it is, right? If we have failures and stuff like that, we just need to fix them, right? But others I found it kind of it's tough for them to see that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And we have like a prime example of that is, having parent, player, coach meetings and stuff like that before a season at a high school level, and a parent coming in and saying, or we have the parent and player in there and asking expectations and stuff and saying, what position do you think you play? And we have the parent, what position do you think your kid is? How because everybody wants to play all the time, right? And there are some parents that are like, well, he's a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard. He's really good. He's really good. And then all of a sudden he'll turn and look at the kid and he'll ask him and he goes, I'm a 3. I don't shoot there that much, right? So the expectations of the kids versus what the parents have, right? So that's at a high school level. Now you take that and you bring it down to the younger kids, and they have no control, right? Yeah. So it's the expectations of the parents, which then transfers to what the kids think.
Yeah, there's a lot of
biggest aha moment was like, oh my gosh, everybody thinks that Michael Jordan.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Par, just with your, last year or two with Johnny and getting him started in soccer, or would you agree, or anything else you want to add?
I loved all of that. I coached Johnny's soccer team, so it was 4 and 5 year olds.
Yeah.
And it was really that exact thing. It was very easy to get frustrated because of your expectations had to come in line with reality really, really fast. Yeah. And I'm so happy that I put myself in that position to be the coach, because I was just able, after the first game, I was able to take a step back and be in reality. And
like you see your kid at home dribbling all day, and you're like, man, he's really good. And then all of a sudden you go into the other, and then you start playing, and it's like, we're not really all that good. Something like that.
Where we thought we were.
You realize that the basics.
So, it's just all about having fun at that age and really praising the good. I thought that we had a really great coaching director. We'd have a practice session before our games, and before the practice session, we'd all sit around and we'd do a takeaway. And, some weeks we'd say, okay, say one thing that you're thankful for when you're playing soccer. And so it was just, I thought that the program did a really good job of just making what's important for the kids front and center and keeping it positive. And the parents were like, they're really close knit too. So they got to hear all of it. So I think everybody's mind got right on it pretty quick, because it would be really frustrating if you don't get your head in the right place and thinking you're going to have all-stars out there. But it's just so gratifying when there's the flashes of brilliance,
When all of a sudden somebody gets something and you're like, well, that's why I'm here, right?
Yeah, the click. Something clicks and falls into line.
And it's I think my biggest takeaway is that, okay, so we got in the right place mentally, and if you're really enjoying every moment and being thankful for it and encouraging and really, really telling the kids when they're doing something right, then they improved really fast. We didn't have a good team, so we lost our first 4 or 5 games by a lot. But we tied our last 3 games of the season. It's I think because we lost the first slew of games by so much, we really learned how to play defense.
Yeah. Progress.
And there was a ton of progress. So not what you were breaking down, coach player meetings and that at the high school level, I mean, that sounds super interesting.
Yeah, it gets interesting. It's just, the expectations, right? And that's kind of how it goes. And as you get older with your son and other children and stuff like that, that the pressure becomes more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
at fourth grade level, you're competing in like maybe a rec league or something like that. But the minute there's some trophy that's awarded or something like that, all of a sudden chaos goes on, right? And that's where people like you and people that have the right mindset go into that with the same thing. Because the biggest problem that we have at where I'm from, which is a town of 1,300 right now, is on my high school basketball team, we take whoever goes through the door because our numbers are so low. I don't have a stockpile of players that is sitting there waiting to come in and play, right? So if these kids that at the younger level are kind of got negative influences because they didn't have a fun time at soccer in fourth and fifth grade, something like that, I don't even get to see them in high school, right? So it's all about all of our youth coaches that we talk to, myself included. We just say, just get them to come out and do better than yesterday. That is all you need to do, right? I don't care if you're winning, you're losing. Obviously, you want to win and lose, but the bigger picture is life skills and kind of working as a team and knowing that you can't just give up, right? And my numbers later in life might reflect that.
Yeah. All right. You guys made me think of something that I wasn't expecting. What, either of you, what in your coaching experience can you translate into real world professional employment experience? Both of you are fathers. Both of you have coached at some level of some sporting event, and then both of you are in a position right now where you have staff that you have to deal with, and you have to bring people on and let people go and make the wheels turn for your companies. What do you think is one or two things that directly translate from coaching, whether it's 5-year-olds or 15-year-olds, to employing 18 to 25 to 35 to 45-year-olds?
Mm-hmm.
Ari, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really one thing, and I think that it's probably the hardest thing in human nature is like human nature defaults towards the negative. So, it's easy to point out flaws.
Yeah.
And so I would say about that is being very conscious to make sure you tell somebody when they're doing a great job, no matter what it is, whether you're coaching sports or performance that you're getting at work. It's like, especially if you have high performers, it's so easy to take them for granted. When people are getting recognized, sometimes it's the people who were not doing so hot a while ago, but then now they turned it around and they're doing a great job, and then they get all this recognition.
Mm-hmm.
What about the person who's done a great job for years?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't get told that because everybody just expects that they're going to do a great job. So, in my experience, I get the most out of people when I've been really conscious to let people know that they're doing a great job and publicly recognize them. Because you're always going to try and improve performance that's not where it needs to be. And you try and do that in the best way possible. It's super easy to overlook the great things. So don't let those opportunities pass you by, is what I would say to that.
Yeah.
Yep, and I would kind of mirror what Par said to some degree, right? So like if they've done very hard work and stuff like that, I've been in facilities and stuff like that where that doesn't get recognized and maybe somebody else actually takes the credit, right? Which doesn't build that relationship very well, and you lose employees really quickly, right? So like me as a manager and stuff like that, supervisor, like I'm just the person organizing things, right? These people behind me are the brain power, most of them.
Yeah.
Right? They're helping out and they get the recognition. It's not me go talk to them or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So something else that kind of translates is really, really easily is everybody is different, right? So everybody might learn differently. Everybody might have a different approach, right? So in a coaching world, like, you know, some people want to get yelled at. Some people don't, right? Some people shut down. So if you go in a working world and you do the same type of mentality, you will lose people, right? So you have to, as a supervisor, leader, whatever, even a coworker, you just have to understand how people kind of work best, right? And you set them up for success, not for failure, because my older son, Malachi, is not the same as my younger son, Kellen, right? So yes, we kind of teach them the same things, they get the same values, but the approach might be different, right?
Yeah.
So that is a key thing. Otherwise, because if you treat them all like robots, you're going to keep
cookie
the
cutter
ones that are happy, and the others are going to not like it.
Yeah. Would you guys say, just from my perspective, what I'm hearing is from both of you that understanding people's strengths is really important, whether you're 5 years old or 50, and being able to not just work around that, but work with their strengths. You know, like you said, Don, no one's a cookie cutter, and you said, Par, you know, even if they've been doing a good job the whole time, not just, you know, most improved pizza maker, that, you know, recognizing those people is something that you've had some success with or get better results.
Yeah, part of that recognition, you know, could be that now they're leading more people, right? Because you have trust in them that they're getting that. And it's not always money. People like money, obviously, but sometimes it's more responsibilities, or maybe they get to do a special project rather than the everyday thing. Like they're singled out, so people know that.
Yeah.
And well, like what Par was saying, that will get those other people that are kind of just existing to kind of see that there is some gifts at the end, or not gifts,
benefits,
but like, rewards.
Yeah, rewards.
And if you just keep doing positive things and learning, then guess what? The end may never be there. You could just keep going.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I love that. I love it. Gold right there. The end is never there. You're always learning.
They're always going forward, right?
Yeah.
Perpetually.
Ding. Gotta like something.
We could have some soundbite for perpetual growth, when like just hit the button and it goes up in our podcast.
Yeah, this is turning into a radio show with a soundboard real quick.
Yes.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know what question to ask you exactly, but I'm really interested in coaching. It's something that I could see myself doing. And you know, your junior varsity basketball, that's a pretty high level. I'm just interested, kind of what's it like to work with high school kids coaching basketball, you know, and how do you see it versus, like, did you have the right perception of your coaches when you were in high school? You know, like
that's definitely the things that I like now later in life, which everybody kind of has. You just have those moments, like I said earlier, where it's like, was that me? Did I do that? That kind of stuff when I was younger. I probably was that kid who wasn't listening sometimes in practice. Well, now I'm the coach and I'm getting upset about it, right? So in some ways, you got to have a little bit of leeway because they are just kids, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm dealing with, well, I do youth stuff too, so I'm dealing with anybody from, first grade all the way up to senior in high school, right? In some capacity. So all those different levels. But when you start getting into, I'll say even 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and then into high school, they definitely have their own opinions, right? And they're very, very strong because of what their experience has been in the past, right? Maybe it's a different coach and they're saying you're not doing it right, and that kind of stuff. So like there's opposition as opposed to like when you're coaching like your son, Damon, he's 5 years old, so you tell him to go run around the cone and he's going to go do it most of the time, right? And that, instead of like nowadays, the older kids are like, well, last time we shuffled around it. Okay, well, that doesn't matter. I'm telling you to run around it. Well, but we shuffled last time. So it's like you got to deal with those things, and they're a lot smarter, right? Or sometimes they think they are, right? Like sometimes there's things where, because at a high school level you deal with a whole lot of things that isn't just basketball. I talk with the varsity coach all the time, and we're just kind of like, it'd be nice if we could just coach basketball, because that's all it should be, right? But you have all the backdoor stuff with high schoolers and grades. We're having to worry about them doing schoolwork and stuff like that. That's not really in our job description when we sign up for it, right? But ultimately that affects our team and affects our players, right? If you don't have good grades. So we're chasing them around doing that, making sure they're just simple things, turn in your forms, stuff like that. And some of that isn't the parent or the kid's fault. It might be the parents, right? Or pay some money for jerseys that you owe or warm-ups and stuff like that. So it's all this ancillary stuff that isn't even a basketball related item, right? Not showing up to school on time. Well, now you can't go and play in the game tomorrow, or whatever.
Other duties as assigned.
Yeah, noted. Miscellaneous. That was the miscellaneous bulletin at the bottom, miscellaneous duties, which is basically counseling, right?
Holy cow. I think maybe I formed a better question. So like on relating this to perpetual growth, how detailed is the program, and like how detailed are you thinking about it where, okay, we want our youth basketball players to be doing, like, what is the progress that you want to see at each level where, okay, we're going to get the best out of these kids when they're in high school because we're doing this when they're in 5th grade. Yep. You know what I mean? Like how detailed is that program? That's something that's really interesting to me because you see these communities that are just powerhouses, and that has to start way back.
Yeah. So
I've never like seen those programs on paper or anything, so I don't really know how detailed it is.
So, and Jason can speak with this because we went to the same school, right? So our school was very powerful in sports, right? Football, basketball, generally speaking. Oh, he's shaking his head like maybe. We're sitting here with like T-shirts that has conference champions like 87 times in a row, right? That kind of stuff. And then I go over to Orfordville, and it's like they haven't won a conference championship since 1964 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's just every day that's what we were trained to do, right, from the youth level. So at this level, like I was saying earlier, we just want, like at a younger level, we want the discipline to show up. So then later in life, they're not telling me that, hey, by the way, we shuffled last time, we didn't run around it, right?
Yeah,
so they
some structure.
The structure, which most kids at a younger age are actually begging for, even though they may kind of act out negatively, like you're not whatever, you don't have to tell me what to do, that kind of stuff. It truly is structured, right? An example of that would be like, so I started coaching there 4 years ago, and kind of, I'll say half got pushed into it, right? Small town, didn't really have many people, right? I wasn't searching to do anything. I obviously have a full-time job and life and everything else, but I enjoy it, and I've learned to love it a lot more because it's just really, it's part of the community stuff, right? So what happens with that is like you jump in and you just get what you get, right? So the players are who they are. At this point, it's tough to kind of mold them, right? So you're kind of dealing with things, right? And one of the biggest aha moments that ever happened to me happened when I was coaching, because it was like, it made me feel like I was doing something right? So we had some players, and being from a small town, you know, if you are somewhat skilled or something like that, you're pretty much going to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. You have some sort of basketball skill, you're going to play. Well, they know this, right? So the effort levels in practice or coming to practice and stuff like that might not be there, as opposed to somebody who wants to be on the team and wants to get playing time, but might not be as skilled, right? So they're busting their tail. Meanwhile, the others are just existing because of their name or whoever, or the past, right? The Fab Five, the Fab whatever that was it, just murdering people in fifth grade basketball, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everybody else sat the bench, that kind of stuff. So then we get to, and then the attitudes are there, stuff like that. So our biggest thing in our world right now is attitude and effort, right? I don't care about your skill. If either one of those is in the negative, you're going to be not one to go in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've had players, I had a player specifically on my JV team that attitude and effort was not there, right? So then they have to understand there's consequences, right? And previous to this, there was no consequences, right? It was just, yeah, well, he's still got to play, otherwise we're going to get killed. We're going to get murdered by 1,000,000 points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, I got to play him. Well, we stepped in, myself and the varsity coach, and that just doesn't happen, right? Me at a JV level, it's easier to sit my guys because I want to win, but it's more about developing them for the varsity level, right?
Yeah.
So then what happens is the attitude and effort comes, and
Good
you know,
morning.
good morning. So then attitude and effort in practice. So then I speak to this player and I go, well, you're not starting tomorrow. Probably one of the first times he's ever heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he kind of looks at me and he's like, what, why? I'm like, the last 3 days, you haven't been playing defense. You haven't been trying when everybody else is, right? So why should you get to play? Oh, and he got all hot and bothered and stuff like that. I said, you know, you're not starting. That doesn't mean you're not playing. It just means you're not starting, right? So then fast forward to the next day at the game, and we're sitting on the bench and he doesn't start, right? Follow through with what I said. And then as we're sitting there, all of a sudden the comments start coming, right? Where it's like, well, we'd be winning if I was out there, stuff like that, you know, where it's like, okay, you know, I'm right here, I'm not deaf, right? And then so at a high school level, it's like the word's entitlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that entitlement of like, you don't know what you're doing, I should be out there, we'd be winning, well, and all whatever they want to say, right? And you know, I turn look and I'm just like, I don't care if we win, right?
Yeah.
If you continue to have a negative attitude right there, you just remain sitting there the whole game, right? And this is in the middle of the game, right, where I'm supposed to be doing my other job, right? But all of a sudden, it feels like it's okay to talk about this. So ultimately, the whole game went on, and I offered to put him in the last 1 minute because he continued to just make comments, right? Shortly after that, what happened was we did the varsity game. I came back. There was a jersey sitting at the door, right? He threw it in the house, so he didn't want to play anymore because he got held accountable for his actions, right? The very next day at practice, we come to practice, I had another player come up to me and just say, thank you. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, thank you. I'm like, for what? He goes, that has never happened before. He's never been held accountable to where we've always had to deal with this coming from fourth grade, right?
Yeah.
So now he's been held accountable, and the others are now affected by it because they know that he's not untouchable, right? So with that now comes the next year, right? The player comes back and wants to play, but his attitude is 100% different, right? So that growth period that happened, he had to have that accountability to understand that just because you are who you are and your past is what it was, doesn't mean you're guaranteed things. You still have to be a good person. You have to still conform to the rules, right? And that's the biggest, I think, growth thing that we've seen in like players and stuff like that. And it was so apparent, right? And it was like, so now as a senior, I look at him and go, look at where you were 2 years ago. You quit my team, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and he's understanding because he's maturing, right?
Yeah. and that will probably stick with him forever.
Yeah.
That's
that relates to a job and everything, right?
yeah, and that's
awesome.
I don't know. Do you guys even have like anything on paper, Don? Like in terms of like plan for programs?
So at the younger level, it's basically teach skill level stuff and attitude and effort, right? If my child who's on my 6th grade team has a very foul attitude, he'll get pulled out and he will not start within 1 second, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. It's the accountability. So everybody else knows that nobody is better than anybody else, because I want them to be 9 successful players at a high school level rather than 3 successful players and 7 that don't play.
Yeah.
Right? Because my bench needs to be deeper than 5 people. It needs to be 10.
Yeah. And again, I mean, going from 5th grade or whatever, wherever you start, to senior year of high school, and as soon as that buzzer sounds for that last game senior year, those are definitely things that people will be able to take with them to,
right.
school beyond, to work beyond, to all of that stuff. And that's like, this is, And when you're 18 or, 17, 16, it's really tough to learn that stuff. You might be learning it for the first time if you haven't had a culture or a history of, dealing with that stuff. And I certainly agree that the sooner you learn that stuff, the better, no matter what your situation is.
Well, Don, you are the change that community needed.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. I mean, you said yourself, they've been losing for 40 years, and I don't know what what your records are or anything, but I mean, to me, you guys are going to have success. That's such a great story, and I really hope people watch this episode to get to hear that story. That they get past 5 minutes in the episode. Because that's that's a story that every parent needs to hear. That's success right there. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And it really is an amazing story to hear. And thinking back, I mean, when I was at that age, man, I didn't know anything. And you're right, you get to that age and
you thought you did.
Yeah, you think you know everything, and it's obviously easy to say this at 36 looking back, but I think not a parent, just a dog dad, but I certainly deal with people. I think that being able to help people understand things like that, whether it's at the age of 12 or it's at the age of 30 or 40, and be able to communicate that is it's a priceless skill, and it's not something everyone has, and it's something that you can always work on and try to improve how you talk to people. That's what it is, right? I mean, in the end of the day, it's talking to people, and it's not just work, it's not just sports, it's how you treat other people regardless of the situation. And that's, again, thanks for sharing that, Don. That was
there's a couple. You're a champion for personal responsibility in that, because you hear all the time people say, oh, kids these days, and it's like okay, well, you took personal responsibility and followed through with what you knew was the right thing to do, and you completely trump that kids these days, because you got that kid to mature and and do things the right way. And I think that's just it. Like, the human spirit, like, humans have spirit, like they want to do the right thing, but if they don't have somebody teaching them or showing them the right path, then they're gonna be misled. So it's just so great.
And one thing that Don said earlier that I thought was awesome is, especially younger kids, they want to be shown. They want you to show them, or they want you to teach them things, and they might not even know it, but they have that curiosity that they're just sponges. And again, it's easy to say this as an adult, but it's so important. And Don, sounds like you're doing a great job doing that.
I think the best feeling out of that whole situation was that the other kids were affected also. The players that have always been because like what you were saying earlier, that was just expected. That was the norm. Oh, there he goes again, right? And he'll come back and play, but it was a true impact on them. I'm happy for the player and what he has done since then, but it was more about knowing that everybody was on the same playing field, right? They wanted some special playing field because of who they were in the past, right? Nothing.
We'll put our pants on one leg at a time, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
Something that really comes to mind that we could probably have you on again and have like a full episode about is measuring success as you are growing towards success. So maybe you're not successful yet, but like, how do you measure success and celebrate wins when you're still losing?
Currently, yes, that's a very tough task right now. Once again, town of 1,300, I take who comes through the door, and in the town I live in, I don't think there's anybody over 6'2" except for me, right? So, in the basketball world, that's very, very tough, right? You're going against people that are very, very large, right? And so
I think you just came up with your first book title. How to measure success and wins even when you're losing.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, so we're kind of in that boat right now with JV1, right? Like, they're not that skilled right now, and we've had 4 or 5 games, and they haven't all come out the best right now, and it's just we're taking and looking at it as one game at a time. So let's not have 13 turnovers. Let's have 12. So did we have 12? Did we have let's not shoot bad 35 threes that are going off everywhere, right? How about we shoot 10 and more and better shots, not just throwing them up, right? So it's little victories along the way. And yes, we may or may not get a win, right? But I'll have many conversations where we could have lost by 10 or 15, but I'll say that was the best game you've ever played. I'm happy with your performance right now, because if you compare it to the game before, how do you guys think you did? Right? And then they start looking at it themselves going, well, we did do better on rebounding, and we did handle the ball better in ball possession and stuff like that. And I said, yep, we did, but we're still not quite there yet, right?
Yeah.
So the next game, we got to go a little further, and eventually the wins just come, right?
Yeah.
That just happens, right? They see it in the little steps.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Baby steps, folks. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
We unfortunately better wrap this up.
That's okay. Yeah, Don, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. We'll certainly, we'd love to have you again, and good luck out on the basketball court.
Thank you. I'll keep you updated.
Sounds good. Say hi to Carissa and everyone else over there, and talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Thank you, guys. Don. Nice to see you.
Bye-bye.